Hignett's corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central. For David Dunn! David Dunn equalises! It just had to be! Dax corner and it goes, glance towards goal! And Rovers have taken the lead! And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Oh, I was muted. Apologies for that. Oh, God, what a start. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our live stream this afternoon before Rovers away game at Brentford at the Lego Stadium, as QPR like to call it. I'm joined by Jacob, Ryan and Tom this afternoon. Be sure to get your comments in and let us know how you're feeling in the run-up to this game. This is, of course, day 5 of our 12 days of Rovers Chat promotion. And before we get started today, we just want to remind everybody that we are proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Okay, so we're not muted now. Everyone can actually hear me. Hello, Dan. Hello, Michael, who've always been following us and already got involved in the comments. Nice to see you guys here and get your questions in. We'll try and answer them throughout the show. We're going to be live for the next hour or so until around 2:15. We'll react to the team news itself as it comes in. And of course, what we always start with is our preferred lineups. We're going to take into account, of course, the injuries and whatnot and things that might be going on and what we expect we might see. We had some positive injury news this week. So I'm going to start with Ryan, who's going to take us through what he wants to see today and why.
Yeah, so the player I'm going to focus on is Tom Trybull. I think this is the game for Tom Trybull today. I think it's going to be an attractive game of football between two good attacking sides. I don't think there's a need for us to necessarily be physical today. So I think it's just a nice game for Trybull to sit there in that deep position, let Rothwell and Holtby go and do the things in an attacking sense and help out, the front three. So, yeah, just a game that I think Trybull might have a good game. And I've gone for Dolan over Gallagher just to take the game to Brentford a little bit. Again, it's just I want us to go for it. So that's why I've gone for Dolan and Trybull.
Okay. And in general with Dolan, do you think that that's more because of the type of game we're going to see today versus the type of game against a Barnsley?
Absolutely. I think if it wasn't the type of game I was expecting today, I'd be going more Gallagher over Dolan. But I just think both sides are really going to match up against each other. And I'd hope that Mowbray is recognising that the 6 points that we've got in the last 2 games, the manner of those victories really sets this one up nicely to go and have a go at Brentford, go for it and, really play our way away from home. And, just with a little nod to your stats, Joe, we will have less possession of the football today, again, which might just suit us in terms of our counter-attack. So, yeah, that's why I've gone for Dolan in that regard.
It's good stuff. And guys, in the comments, let us know what you think of Ryan's team. Why is he completely wrong? And why is that the most ridiculous lineup you've ever seen? And maybe why it's the best lineup you've ever seen. Okay, let's have a little look now at what Tom is going to go for, because we've just lost Jacob there. So we're going to look at Tom's team and what have you gone for and why, mate?
Yes, I think, I'll focus on Gallagher more than anyone there. Burton's obviously injured, a big one as well, big loss. I know we're going to speak about him a little bit later on. Yeah. Gallagher, for me, I think it'd be harsh not to play him. I get what Ryan's saying with regards to Dolan. Dolan's got more skill on the ball, and obviously Burton holds that. So I suppose Dolan, in a way, it sounds a bit silly saying it, but he's more like for like, if that makes sense. But Gallagher, I think that physical presence that he offers, for me, I just think that it's something that we may need to utilise a bit more. And it gives us another option. I know you spoke a lot, Joe, that often we don't have a plan B. I think having someone that perhaps has that more physical presence like Gallagher is more likely to offer that than someone like Dorman, when we've already got someone like Elliott inside.
So, I mean, do you agree with Stephen Mason in the comments here when he says that it's going to be a cagey game?
I think so, yeah. I think that it will be cagey. It's not going to be... I don't think it's going to be as free-flowing as we think it might be. I think it will be cagey. There's going to be moments that decide the game. And I would say that he's spot on in saying that it is going to be a cagey affair.
Yeah, and I think back to last year's game at Brentford, and I know a lot of people think back to the one the year before, which was obviously a bit of a heartbreak and kind of put an end to a good run, really. But last year, I think, is probably more relevant to where we are now. It's a little bit more recent and reflects more truly the kind of team we've got. Armstrong played up front that day, for example. And we did take the lead early on, a big long ball downfield, misjudged by the defender and a nice kicked goal. Do you think that if we do take the lead today, we're going to win it? I mean, we've not yet drawn or lost a game from a 1-0 leading position.
I mean, history suggests, yeah, doesn't it? Like I say, historically this season, when we go ahead, we tend to win. But I think with this Rovers side, there's still that element of the unknown. And against Millwall, we were lucky. There was the 3 or 4 penalty appeals. I actually saw on their TikTok earlier today. I know someone in the chat mentioned it. They are blatant, aren't they? I think all 4 of them, or 3 of them. So we were lucky, and we did look a bit shaky at the back in that game. So I think going ahead is obviously helpful. It means that Brentford have to push out a bit more. But I'm still not fully confident in our defensive ability that the 1 goal is going to be enough.
Ace, Jacob managed to get back to us. A few Wi-Fi issues. Take us through your team and why you've gone for what you've gone for, mate.
Yeah, I've gone for Douglas and Wharton in my team. I'm not sure if it's already been mentioned because obviously the Wi-Fi issues, but Ayala did look very shaky against Millwall. It really made me feel uneasy the whole game, and it's a shame really because obviously we were thinking we were getting a really good player in Ayala. I know he hasn't played much this calendar year, and whether it's still getting up to speed, but he really does need to kick on soon. So I've gone for Wharton. What obviously to Ayala that will be a bit embarrassing, I guess, considering Wharton's had like 5 or 6 games at championship level starting. So I've gone for Wharton. Wharton's looked solid all season with Enham, great partnership, and I've also gone for Barry Douglas. Amari Bell just made me feel really uneasy against Millwall again. You could tell they were definitely targeting that left-hand side of Ayala and Amari Bell. They barely ever went down the right-hand side, and for good reason. So now hopefully Douglas and Wharton are back today and I'll feel a lot more confident defensively.
Yeah, and I mean, for me as well, I think that Ayala playing in a left central position doesn't suit him. I don't really think he's played there much. And obviously Wharton being left-footed is great. And I think we've seen what Wharton is good at, but perhaps we might have also seen what he isn't as good at. I mean, obviously he's up against effectively an Adam Armstrong today, you know, the guy that's matched him all season in Ivan Toney. We know what we've got, so we know what we're dealing with. And obviously Mbuemo on that right-hand side will give Douglas and Wharton a tough time. So yeah, I think I agree though, Jacob. Definitely Douglas and Wharton. I think if they're both fit to play, they've got to. But it wouldn't shock me, of course, if they weren't fit or if one of them wasn't fit, because you know Mowbray's estimations of when players will come back are never always exactly 100%, especially so far in advance. So we'll have to wait and see what Jacob and Rich tell us about who gets off the coach, I guess. So I'll quickly show you mine. And yeah, so for me, and it's a difficult one, but Ben Brereton is for me the glue that holds the current formation together. The ball runner on the left hand side, who can pick the ball up and run with it. And unfortunately for me, I just don't think that Gallagher or Dolan can do that. The only player I can think of really is either Rothwell or Armstrong, and I like Rothwell in his midfield role. So as much as you don't want him not up front, you know, Adam Armstrong scored from the left wing in our last game to get the winner. And I think I would start him there today just so that we've got that dribbling ability out wide. because I think if Gallagher plays on the wing, I think we're going to really struggle to work the ball into the box. And also, of course, I think that Gallagher suits a central position much better. Elliott can cross balls into him. He scored a goal from a central position against Luton, of course, the equaliser. So, yeah, and I don't know whether that's going to be contentious and whether people in the comments will say you cannot stick a 14-goal in 14-game striker out on the left wing. But I think we've got to maybe sacrifice Armstrong today for the sake of getting everybody else in positions that work. And if Brereton's not going to be out for too long, then, Armstrong knows and the fans know that it's just a really temporary fix. If it was going to be a long-term issue, I think we'd have to consider putting Elliott out on the left wing or moving Rothwell or whatever. But hopefully, and the good news, of course, is Ben Brereton should be okay. So we've got a little graphic on Ben Brereton. And Ryan, I'm going to come to you first on this. How important do you think Ben Brereton is? How excited are you for him to come back? And are you happy that it's such a short waiting time?
Yeah, really important. Just look at the debate we're having right now about who's going to go onto that left-hand side. This guy started every game for a reason because of what he brings to the side. He's an absolute team player. Just, look at that dribble success. We've seen it, how he's a bigger physical presence. He can take us up the pitch. He can hold it up. He can link the play up. He's just addressed all of those things. And is a massively important player, and I'm not judging him too much actually by the goals and assists, although it's nice that he's got them. When you've got Adam Armstrong banging them in, having Ben Brereton doing all of these other things that he's doing is just a great blessing to have. In terms of how excited I am to have him back, it's great news that the injury is only short term, because like with your side where you're sticking Armstrong out on the left, like with my side where I'm putting Dolan on the left, which might be a bit unnatural. I don't want the square pegs in round holes. I want Armstrong through the centre. I want Brereton in the position where he's doing well. So great news that it's only a short-term injury, and hugely important player for us, and delighted for him as well. We've all given him stick. Let's all be honest. We all have over the last 2 years, and I'm delighted that he's proven us all wrong.
Yeah, well, and you're right when you say all, because I don't really think there have been many people that would have put any kind of real money on Ben Brereton doing so well this season. Even the most optimistic, and perhaps even a family member of Ben's wouldn't have been as confident to say do that well this year for us. And obviously, we can see there, just so people understand, the stars above those stats there. That basically means no Rovers player has done more than him in that area. So, he is providing creative output from the left. I was just going to ask, and Jacob, I'll come to you on this. If Brereton's not available, obviously I've decided on my 11 to say, right, Armstrong on the left. Do you think there's any kind of merit in saying that a Stuart Downing, a creative player like that, or a Rothwell can play on that left-hand side? Or does it need to be a Dolan, an Armstrong, a Brereton?
I think in regards to Downing, I think Downing obviously played on the wing last season for the vast majority of his time with us, but I feel like in the position Brereton has been playing is more of a wide striker role. I don't think that would suit Downing, to be honest. I would much prefer Downing at left back or in the midfield. Rothwell stated, hasn't he, that he wants to be in the midfield, and I think for him, he's been so influential in that midfield this season. I think putting him in that wide striker position again, I don't think he has the goals to his game to play there, but he definitely has that dribbling ability that Brereton has. But again, I think it would be silly to be taking him out of a position he's been doing so well in. So for me, I've gone for Dolan there today. I think, like you said, Joe, I can understand why you put Armstrong there, because he can do definitely what Brereton can do. But like you're saying, you're taking a 14 goals in 14 appearances striker and putting him on the wing. So I've gone for Dolan. I don't think there's any reason why Dolan can't do what Brereton does. He's obviously just a lot smaller and doesn't have the physicality, but there's no doubt he can not beat a man and dribble with the ball and drive it then like Brereton does. Yeah.
And Dan Woods in the comments getting in the Chilean maestro link. Obviously, for those of you that don't know, Ben Brereton's mum is from Chile, and the Chilean fans are desperate for him to go and declare for that nation. So we're all keeping a keen eye on that one. Michael Pearson makes an interesting comment. Brentford Dave on last night's preview says that they were weakest in fullback areas, and that Armstrong might get some joy from the left. Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think that was kind of my thinking, really, with him being out there. Just on Dolan, and Tom, I'll come to you here. We can see Brereton here, obviously 3 goals. Well, Dolan, in significantly less game time, also has 3 goals this season. As much as he's happy to be there, and in some ways he's like the star of some 2001 movie where the underdog gets to come and play for a big team, does he deserve more game time?
I think Dolan's a tricky one. I think it sounds silly because if you're good enough, you're old enough, but you got to be careful you don't expose him too much. I think I worry, and another very different players, but look at Joe Nuttall. Joe Nuttall came on the scene and blew us all away, really. Scoring goals and just sort of tailed off. And I think maybe we got carried away. I don't want to do the same with Dolan. He looks a real talent, don't get me wrong. But I think sometimes you do have to be careful with youngsters in not giving them too much game time. With that being said, you are spot on. He's got his 3 goals in significantly less game time. And they've all been okay goals as well. I think Preston fans are calling him a tapping merchant, but they've all been well worked. I mean, you've got to be in the right place to score the goals, don't you? I mean, players, some of the most prolific goal scorers of all time are literally tapping merchants. Look at Jordan Rhodes, prolific for us, and just in and around that 18-yard box, he scored. So Dolan's a really tricky one. I see a comment from Stephen Mason. He does look a bit small sometimes. Sometimes get put to the ball a bit too easy, but then he'll go and produce a wonderful piece of skill that just puts a defender on his backside, and you just think, well,
yeah,
this lad's got it all.
Okay, so we've talked Ben Brereton, and obviously we're not going to have him today, but we'll talk about the striker that we definitely have today and that we're all happy to have in Adam Armstrong. We've got an interesting graph here, which has been nabbed from somebody else whose name I can't remember, but we will credit them afterwards. And basically it compares, obviously, again, data, and if it's not your thing, it's not your thing, that's fine. And it kind of shows you the type of player that you're dealing with here. So obviously in different divisions, but we've got players like Gabriel Jesus there, you'll all have heard of at Manchester City, and you can see there's some really interesting similarities between these players, and you can see just how incredibly creative Adam Armstrong is as a striker. We see him drop deep, and then we see him getting behind as well. And in general, he is just having an insane season. So we have to talk about him, and let us know in the comments. And really what I want to ask everybody is, is Adam Armstrong the best striker we've had at the club since, Jordan Rhodes? Is he better than Jordan Rhodes? And then also, of course, I want to get into how much is he worth? And how much would you accept for him in the transfer market? And I know that I'll end up embarrassing Ryan there, for those of you that know about one of Ryan's comments. So, Ryan, I'll come to you first so you can redeem yourself. Is Adam Armstrong more effective for us than Jordan Rhodes? Will he be? And how much is he worth?
Yes, more effective than Jordan Rhodes, because with Jordan Rhodes, we really had to engineer that side to provide the service. I thought, we've got Craig Conway on one wing, Ben Marshall on another wing, for example. So you're really creating those chances. And obviously Rhodes was a quality striker and could put them away. Absolutely no doubt. Armstrong's more effective because he's just got that more all-round nature to his game. He can bang in a goal from outside the box. He's got the pace to get in behind. He can play out wide in that position, like what you've said, Joe. So I think as an all-round striker, absolutely more effective than Rhodes in that sense. And no surprises that Premier League teams will be looking at him. In terms of his value, I will qualify, that 10 million thing that I said. I'm being genuine now, if we want the price tag that we think he is worth, it will be this January transfer window that we have to sell him for that fee. Because as that contract runs down, and with the Newcastle sell-on clause, we're not going to be selling him for as much as we think unless he signs that new contract. So he's clearly worth more than 10 million, but we might not get as much as we think we do if we don't sell him in January. And it'll be a hard sell. If we do sell him in January, that's going to be gutting for us all to see. But if we do want £20 million, if we do want £25 million, it's got to be January. Else that price really starts to tail off through to next year. So it's a difficult one. And I look at it and I just think with some of these players that we haven't got tied up onto contracts, if selling Armstrong this window tied everyone else up onto the contracts, I think I'd do it.
Yeah. I mean, Jacob, that's the balancing act, isn't it? Because we could be sat here on the 29th, 30th or whatever of December, and we're 8th in the table, not too far off the playoffs, could give it a push in the second half. And the balancing act is whether you go and sign a couple of players, spend a couple of million and try and push us forward, or you say, look, we can't refuse £30 million. That's a third of our debt, for Christ's sake. So we've got to take it and we're not going up. What do you think?
I mean, it is such a hard question. We all know that Venky's will not sell a player unless their valuation of that player is met. We've saw that with numerous players since they've took over. You only have to look at Bradley Dack when West Brom came in for him, weren't it? And they just flat out refused to sell him. It's really hard because if we sell Armstrong in January, and that's really a statement of intent to the whole squad that we're probably not going to be going for playoffs realistically, but I can get what you're getting at. Obviously, it is a lot of money. It's hard to refuse that for a club in our position. But if we're signing a striker in January and expecting to be making the playoffs come the end of the season, when you're trying to embed a new striker into the team, what I presume would be the first team choice if we were selling our first team striker. I don't know. I personally wouldn't. If I were going to sell him, it would have to be in the summer. I think it'd be foolish to sell him in January, and then you're basically rolling the dice, aren't you? Whether a striker comes in and starts performing straight away, because we can't rely on Gallagher for the rest of the season up top, could we? So it'd have to be a striker to come in and start scoring straight away, which the likelihoods of that happening wouldn't happen, and obviously not. More than likely would nowhere be near to the same effect Armstrong has this season. What's obviously been unparalleled, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really tough debate because obviously, I mean, back when we had Jordan Rhodes, I mean, as has been alluded to here by Ryan Lambert, we thought Rhodes was our saviour at that time and we moved on and we got replacements. It's the game. I think it's a different ball game now, though, because we're dealing with a young English forward who's not commanding between £8 and £12 million. He's commanding closer to £30 million. I mean, those kind of figures, I mean, even if nobody came in and we didn't get promoted, if you want a Tosin Adarabayo on loan for the season, you can afford that 50 grand a week the following season because you've just sold a player for 30 million. And we've seen Brentford do it, the team that we're playing today. They sell players, they reinvest. I thought that Ivan Toney was a huge risk because he'd never done well at championship level, and I predicted he wouldn't do very well, and how wrong I was. It's whether we trust our scouting network, I suppose. Tom, I'm going to let you have the final word on this. Obviously, we're talking about Adam Armstrong from a club perspective, and obviously we've got our own interests at heart, but let's talk about Adam Armstrong, the player. I guess the question is, how far can he go? Do you think that he is at his peak right now and that our system is set up to make him score goals? Or do you think the grass will be greener and that he can continue to impress in a league above?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think there's a big gulf in class between the Championship and the Premier League when it comes to strikers. Adam Armstrong, for as good as he is, I know people in the comments said that he's different to Jordan Rhodes, and he is completely. Jordan Rhodes is a more clinical striker than Adam Armstrong. Adam Armstrong can create 10 times the chances that Jordan Rhodes could, though. So it evens itself out, if that makes sense. Armstrong needs 3 or 4 bites at the cherry to get his couple of goals. Is he going to get that in the Premier League? You don't know, do you? It's impossible. The Premier League's standard is much higher. But I do think sky's the limit for Armstrong. He was well rated when he was younger. I mean, it's easy to forget that he scored 18 goals, 19 goals in League One as an 18-year-old, and then all of a sudden disappeared when he had those couple of loan moves at Barnsley and Bolton. I think he could go to the Premier League and succeed. Is he necessarily going to go and set the Premier League alight the way he's the Championship? Probably not, but how many strikers do that have come up from the Championship to the Premier League?
We saw Mowbray with the Harvey Elliott loan deal kind of advertise himself, really. I think he said that they put together a bit of a PowerPoint about how he'd nurtured these wingers, and obviously Adam Armstrong was one of them, and why we were the best place for Harvey Elliott to come. Do you think that no matter what, really now, whether he goes or whether he stays and whether we get promoted, we're really putting ourselves on the map as a team that develops players. I mean, Joe Rothwell is a great example this season, and Ben Brereton. Do you think that younger players, those 20-year-olds like your Ben Breretons that we're looking at in the market and abroad as well, do you think, Ryan, that those kind of players are going to look at Rovers now and say, yeah, there's a progression path. Even if we don't get promoted, I'm going to develop there and get into the Premier League?
I think you're absolutely spot on with that, Joe. If we remember the days in the Premier League under John Williams, we ran ourselves successfully as what we called a trading club. So we'd sign the likes of Roque Santa Cruz, Benny McCarthy, David Bentley, etc. for small fees and then sell them on for bigger fees. And that's how we sustain the club with the finances. It's taken us a while, but I think Mowbray has now landed on a model and a system that could work for us. Our own academy, yes, of course, bringing through our own players and blooding them into the team. The likes of Adebayo and Elliott and these big Northwest youngsters at those bigger clubs, yep, they've got a shop window to come and play. And then if we are selling the likes of Adam Armstrong or Bradley Dack for some big money, then we can move that money back into the club and get people onto the contracts we need, or get the next Ivan Toney from League One because we're the first in the queue because of wages. So I think we've now finally, for me, landed on a system and a model that could work for this club. And when I spoke to Dave last night, Brentford have got a similar model, but different. They use a lot of data. They've scrapped their academy, but they've landed on a model that works for them. And it's no surprise that they're punching for the top 6 for the last few seasons. So I think you're absolutely right, Joe. We seem to have just really made that mold for ourselves now. And if the likes of Jurgen Klopp are willing to trust us with Harvey Elliott, it speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Well, 100%. And I think if next season we do have a little bit of money because of a sale like Dak or Travis or Nyambe or Armstrong or whatever, I think we're in a good position to be loaning players. I mean, we nurtured Tosin Adarabioyo, Harrison Reed. You know, these are players that are now playing in the Premier League, and Harvey Elliott will leave us a player with an even bigger value. Right, okay, that was a good chat on Adam Armstrong. Get more comments in the comment section if you would like to. Let us know what you think. We've had a few different questions in. We will come to questions like FM Works' question there at the end, because that's a good one, and I will ask people's opinion on Jack Vale later on. Just quickly, I just want to let you guys know, we announced yesterday that we're planning a big festive Fat Rovers quiz at the end of the year. We collaborated with Lancs Live, Lancashire Telegraph and BRFCS, and of course ourselves, Rovers Chat. And we're going to be doing a big quiz. It's all in aid of the Blackburn Salvation Army. We'll be raising money for the charity. All of the revenue from the Rovers Chat website in December will be going there, and some of our partners will be helping out also. We've got special guests like Elliot Bennett, and we've got loads of discussions underway. There's going to be some great special guest appearances and prizes to be won from our partner 6yardsout.com. So that's going down on Wednesday, the 23rd of December, 7 p.m. So right up at the Christmas period, we'll be raising some money, we'll be giving away some stuff, and we want to get everybody involved. And we've not actually locked down our full-on format as well. So, you know, if you want to get in touch with us and give us some ideas and let us know anything that you think would be cool, you can do that as well. And if you want to be involved in any other way, or if you know somebody who might want to be involved, somebody famous perhaps, or somebody with a blue tick who can help us raise money for that charity, then let us know, and we'll be live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Okay, after we've plugged ourselves there and we've got that out of the way, we'll talk a little bit now about the man on the other side. We've talked Adam Armstrong, and we've done that at length, and we all, of course, have Adam Armstrong in our minds. But the other man for Brentford, of course, is Ivan Toney. We've touched on him a little bit, and I'm going to come to you first, Jacob. Ivan Toney, similar scoring record to Adam Armstrong, different player?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I can't say I've watched him this season, but obviously you just look at the stats. It's similar sort of goals to games, isn't it? And we definitely have to watch out for him today. From what the Brentford fan said last night, he isn't sort of full of himself. He does put a lot of it down to the service he's getting from the team. So it isn't just him we need to watch out. We have to watch out for the players who obviously put in the service into him, and it's not just him who's the threat today by any means.
Ryan, I think same question really. Similar scoring record. Do you think different player?
Completely different player. Completely. Ivan Toney, when you look at his goals, both at League One and this season, he has got an amazing ability to get away from his man in the box. Most of his goals are in the box, in and around that kind of 12 to 6 yard area. Just have a look at some of the highlights. He's just got the ability to get in front of his man, find some space, time his run to perfection. And he's always just getting on the end of something. And he's going to be a big threat for us today. If Brentford start putting some good balls into the box, he can just create that half yard for himself and get on the end of something. So I think Wharton and Lenihan, if it is those two, going to have to watch out for a really tricky customer. He's also fantastic in the air. He's got a good spring. He's athletic. And yes, he's not going to be like Lyndon Dykes, a big muscular presence. He's a bit more athletic, got more of a spring, and he can really got a good leap on him. So completely different striker. He's got a bit of pace on him. He's not slow. He can get in behind. He's just not blistering like Armstrong. So they would actually complement each other really well in a strike force, I think, which is the irony. They are both completely different. Newcastle are absolutely fuming at that one because they would be a great strike force. But yeah, he's maybe a bit like Jordan Rhodes, actually. Just that ability to find that space in the box is what Ivan Toney's game is.
We've had an interesting few years against Brentford. I mean, we had a bit of a grubbing at their place in 18-19, but we beat them at home 2 years running 1-0, and we managed to get a good draw where I thought we should have got a win last season away from home. I feel like perhaps Mowbray does have their number, really, apart from that one game where we really struggled and got caught off guard. I mean, we were 2-0 up. I think in terms of tactically, I do think that Mowbray knows that system and knows how to play it. Tom, with Ivan Toney, of course, there's also Marcus Forss as well, who's scoring some goals. Do you think that Brentford are a different team this year with him than they were last year with Watkins, Benrahma, and in what way can we expect them to be different?
I think Brentford seems to evolve every single season. Like I know we've alluded to it. They always lose players. They always buy players who seem to set the league alight. And I think they're almost a different prospect every year. I know you mentioned our record. It's, I guess, aside from that, was it 5-2, the defeat in a few years ago? Yeah. So aside that, I think we've got a pretty good record against them in recent years. Obviously, got relegated there, put one. So I think Mowbray perhaps does have the number. They are a different prospect. And it's going to be a really interesting affair. I think that it's one for the statisticians amongst us, like yourself, Joey. It's one for you to look at and really think it's a game that's going to be won and lost in the dressing room with the team talk and the tactics rather on the pitch, if that makes sense.
I don't know who it was. Somebody on Twitter, one of the Rovers accounts, and I won't guess because if I'm wrong, it's unfair. Somebody has got a running counter going on about how early Rovers come out after the half-time break, and for the last 15 games we have come out first before the other side, and I think it's showing that we're not really doing too much at half-time. Mowbray's getting them in there and just having a quick chat and sending them back out, as compared to other years where I think we've had some poor halves and had to come out and really rectify things. Jacob, I'm just going to come back round to you now. Obviously, we know about Ivan Toney and the goal threat that he's going to pose. Do you expect a clean sheet today, or are you expecting us to ship a few?
No, I definitely don't think we'll have a clean sheet today. Again, I think the defence is going to be changed for the God knows how many times this season. And it obviously that's going to happen though with the amount of injuries and the players we've had out with COVID, but it's just not good for that back four. But if it is the back four that I think we've all gone for, what is Douglas, Wharton, Lenihan and Nyambe with obviously Kaminsky in that, then I do think that defence will fare a lot better than the defence against Millwall that did look very shaky at times. And if that back four plays today against Brentford, it will get absolutely teared up. Millwall obviously have been struggling themselves with injuries and didn't look that much of an attacking threat. So against Brentford, who is obviously probably on a par up with us for how good they are attacking wise this season, it would be scary to see that back four. But if we have Wharton and Douglas, that'll make me feel a lot more at ease, but I'm expecting to concede at least one or two today.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I won't ask you guys for your score predictions until we've seen the team news, of course, because I think mine will completely hang on whether we see Ayala or Wharton, and of course Bell, Douglas. In general, and Chris Hayes has made a comment here. If we keep a clean sheet, I'll get Tommy K tattooed on my bum. Well, I think I was just going to talk about him really. In general, I'm much more confident going into games that we can get a clean sheet because Kaminski is such a reliable goalkeeper. I mean, at their place last year, it was 2-2 and we didn't deserve that. But that first goal of theirs, Watkins, 30 yards out on the half volley or whatever it was, it should have been saved. It just shouldn't have been in the net. And it's the kind of goalkeeping error that I don't think we're going to have to worry about as much in a game like today. Obviously, different stadium now. We're no longer at Griffin Park. So that kind of atmosphere and having done well there in recent years is kind of going to be gone, really. But yeah, so Ryan, Brentford, this is probably our toughest test this season, isn't it?
Absolutely, and there's a little extra factor there today. It's the first time they've got fans in the stadium. They're going to want to do it for them. So I think Brentford are going to be driven a little bit. They're going to be looking at a team like Rovers and thinking, right, we're the challengers to that top six, because that top six, when you look at it, is fairly locked down at the moment, and they're the clubs that you're expecting to be up there. So Brentford have got a chance to kind of swat a fly away in Rovers, haven't they? And I think it's going to be tough, but I think it's just going to be a superb game. I really think it's going to be two sides that are going to go toe to toe. We're both 3 wins on the spin. We both play attacking football. We've both got high expected goals. We've got exciting young players, and I just think it's just going to be a superb afternoon, and it's going to be tough. Ivan Toney has scored those goals for a reason. He is a really tricky customer. Someone like Brian Mbeumo is probably having a quiet season because he's not in that kind of BMW spotlight at the moment with Ben Rama and Watkins, but he's a massive danger. And then midfield, I think, is going to be a key area today. Someone like Josh Da Silva, I think, is just going to be constantly harassing our 3 central midfielders. He's a real good player. I really like him. So we're going to get no time on the ball, I don't think, in that central area when he's a bit like Lewis Travis, just a constant pest in there, So it's going to be a tough game, absolutely. And Brentford are up there for a reason. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we approach this game. I just want us to use the last 2 wins to just go there with no fear. Let's go for it. That's what I want. We talked
about that, didn't we, in the last post-match discussion? And Tom, I'll come to you with this really, and it's kind of split the fan base in our comments. And guys, let us know what you think on this. But it was kind of suggested that perhaps after 2 wins that in other years we might not have got back-to-back and perhaps weren't necessarily deserved, we've kind of built up enough points over recent weeks to not have to worry too much today and kind of go and try and play well. And if we don't win, we don't win. I mean, we played poorly against Barnsley and Middlesbrough and managed to win. Have we got the freedom to just go and try and play well today and not worry too much about whether we get 1 point or none or 3?
I don't think it's a free hit. I don't think we can go and not be worried if we lose, because if we win, I think it's a statement of intent. You're right in saying the Millwall-Barnsley games last season, it's the sort of game where it's 1-1 or a 1-0 to Millwall or Barnsley, we just don't get over the line. Yeah. It's not a free hit, but we could afford to lose it, is what I would say. It's not life or death. Because we've been able, if you look how tight it is at the top, I've just have a look at the table then. There's about, now obviously, there's 6 points because of a bonus game last night and Reading are currently winning 2-0. But before the game started this weekend, there's only 4 points between ourselves in 9th and Middlesbrough in 10th, and then the top of the table. It shows how tight and packed it is. We can afford to lose it. I don't want to lose it, but we can afford. It's not the sort of game where I look and think, right, okay, that's playoffs gone, because we have been able to get victories against Millwall and Barnsley. But I don't want to lose, obviously. I'd love to win. But yeah, Stan Stairs just said that obviously he's in agreement with yourself, Joe. And hopefully me now, because I said the same. Unless you lose by an absolute load. We can afford to not pick up any points.
Yeah, and obviously we're only a couple of minutes away from team news, so let us know in the comments if there's anybody that we haven't mentioned that you want to see today or really don't want to see. I mean, Michael Pearson says there, if, and obviously it's a big if, and he makes sure that that's clear, if we win, we're automatic contenders. I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe a nod or a shake from the panel. Do we agree with that comment?
It's
like I'm not too sure.
It's a half
it's
nod.
one of them. I'll sit on the fence.
I think when you look at some of the teams that are up there, it's difficult, isn't it? Yes, we're unbeaten in our last 6, but when you see some of the teams, I mean, Reading just won't stop. They're 2-0 up at the minute as well, and Forest are down to 10 men. But Bournemouth, Reading, Norwich, Watford, Bristol City, Brentford, Swansea, I think there's 2 teams out of those that are going to finish above us. But playoffs definitely is a discussion. I don't know about automatic contentionship. That's the tough one. We are only a minute away from team news now. And Leaky Man there says, it's Rovers. Let's just take it game by game. I agree with that 100%. Again, I don't think I see this as a free hit, but perhaps just an opportunity to play our game. Because I think Mowbray's been a little bit tentative to, especially against your Barnsleys and your Millwalls, to play our game and end up coming away yet again and saying, oh, well, we played well and we deserved more. So this is a game where I feel like we can play well. And if we say we deserved more at the end, then that's not the end of the world. But we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Brentford are a good side. And yeah, have we got any team news yet? Is that going to be rolling in, or are we still a little bit?
Shots come in now, about to roar across the banner for you, Joe. So don't worry yourself. Just make sure.
Joe, I think the game to.
Go on, Ray, mate.
Sorry, my connection went a bit funny there. I just think the game today is just one of those where I'm so desperate for us to make a show of intent and get a result at Brentford today that I just want to feel like that side is engineered and set up to do that. But, everyone's right. If it is a draw, then that's a good result. If we do end up losing, it's not the end of the world. But it's just one of them where I just want us to do it. I want us to go and lay down that marker, and I'm so desperate for that.
Yeah, interesting. So we've got our team news. The big one is no Lewis Holtby today. That's going to be interesting. I mean, the last time we saw Johnson Tribal was Luton. Last time we were down in London, of course, and it didn't work well, did it? You can see Jacob's not happy. I don't know if that's again. I mean, last time with Rothwell not being included, we found out post-match that his hamstrings were really hot. So it may be an injury thing, but I think because we saw it against Luton, it wouldn't shock me if that's a purposeful choice. A lot of pressure on Rothwell there to get forward in possession and really be the pivotal one. But Ryan and Tom, you talked about Brentford's midfield there and how combative they can be, and it might be helpful. Obviously, we know that Johnson and Tribal on their day have both had some great games. Both have also had some poor games too. So I'll just come around for your initial reactions. Jacob, I've got a feeling I might know what you think.
Like you've just said, Joe, Johnson and Tribal on their days have had brilliant games, but that's individually, not playing together. We've seen many a time this season, when you're playing 2 defensive-minded midfielders in that midfield 3, it just simply doesn't work. We've saw it with Corey Evans this season being played in that Rothwell role. It was rubbish. We saw it against Luton. We looked just lost. We just looked completely lost in that first half against Luton. It was one of the worst halves we've seen this season, by no doubt. And the only spark we had was Rothwell, and he was just running the show. And the only thing we kind of had going in that midfield, they don't complement each other at all. And I think everyone can see that. So it just baffles me that Mowbray's gone for it again, because against Luton it was rubbish. It was just simply rubbish until Harvey Elliott moved into the midfield towards the end of the second half, and then we started to get going a bit more. But I can't understand for the life of me why he's not put down in there in the Holtby role. Or even John Buckley. John Buckley came on against QPR in that Holtby role and was superb. I mean, I think I've said it was a blessing in disguise that Evans went off injured that day, else we would have had another problem like we're having today with 2 defensive midfielders, because it was Johnson and Evans starting that game. And Buckley came on and was great. He put in that ball for Linehan and then obviously got nodded down for Brereton to volley in. And I just can't understand it. He knows the system now. And yeah, I just, in my mind, is it a choice of being a bit more defensive against Brentford because we're away and he's being a bit more cautious? But if that's the case, then I don't like that either, really. I would rather just go for it, like we've already said.
On a more positive note, Ryan, of course, Wharton and Douglas back. Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Douglas, I just think, as a championship left back is just better than Amari Bell, and will have the set pieces that he can obviously contribute today as well. Scott Wharton is, I said this, I think I said it on the last stream. I just find it quite an indictment on Ayala, actually, that Scott Wharton appears to be ahead of him now. Whether Ayala's carrying anything from midweek or might be carrying a bit a knock, or he's got a bit of fatigue, I don't know. But I think it speaks volumes, actually, that Scott Wharton has now really forced his way into either third or second choice centre-back in this side. But no, I'm happy. That defence looks good. I've got a slight concern about Tribal and Johnson together just because of some of your excellent stats work that you did, Joe, and how similar they are and the areas that they occupy. Yeah. And a little bit worried about Josh Da Silva maybe just exploiting that and breaking up the play for them and allowing them to get on the counter-attack. So I've got a little concern there. I'm happy Tribal's playing, though. I do think this is a game for Tribal. I maybe just would have not had Johnson. But no, I'm happy overall with the side. Good to see Gallagher. I would have gone Dolan, but nothing against Gallagher.
See, I think there might be a possibility here. And again, the chances are slim, but it's already been alluded to by a couple of people on social media. We might see a slight change in system here. In the last game that we played against Millwall, we were playing a very different system towards the end. We played with a double pivot, and it was a weird system with kind of like two defensive midfielders that we've not been used to for some time. Could it be that we see Johnson, Tribal sit in front of that midfield, Holtby in the hole in behind? We might see that, or should I say Rothwell in the hole in behind, or central and pushing forward, should I say. To answer Leap Year Man's question, the bench, we will... Hang on, I think I might have it in front of me. Yeah, we've got Ainsley Pearce, Daniel Ayala, Stuart Downing, Lewis Holtby, Harry Chapman, Amari Bell, Jacob Davenport, John Buckley, and Tyrese Dolan. So Ayala and Bell fit, but not chosen. So yeah, that does nod to Douglas and Wharton being the first choice. Tom, on that note, of course, Sam Gallagher comes in. Now, where do you think he's going to play today? And as a second question to that, where would you play him today?
I think I'd play him. I'd stick with the system that we have been playing just because for the majority of the season it has worked. But when you said that just then, Joe, that it may be that we revert to that old style, I think there's potential actually for that. Is he looking at it, let's build a solid base, have your Johnson, Tribal in that holding position, and then almost put Armstrong, Rothwell and Elliott as a three, and then Gallagher as almost that Danny Graham type. I do think he'll stick with the one that he has been playing. I think it'll be Gallagher on the wing, Armstrong through the middle. But now you've said that, I actually would like to see the that 4-5-1 almost. Just I think it's been mentioned in the comments. Tribal and Johnson bring a bit of physicality to the game. And we've already said it's going to be very combative in midfield. So I don't necessarily hate the team selection. I looked at it, actually. I was like, actually, that's okay. I don't hate it. Holtby, the class that he brings, perhaps doesn't have that same combative style in his repertoire, if that makes sense. He works hard, runs around, gets stuck in, but Tribal seems to read the game very well. He's always there, cutting out those passing lanes, similar to Johnson. And as a pair, if they can work well together, it could be a really solid base.
It could go one of two ways, this really, couldn't it? Because we saw kind of that box midfield formation, and we've seen it a few times later on in games where you kind of had, well, for using today's team, like a Johnson and a Tribal, and then Rothwell and Elliott kind of central but above them in this kind of square in midfield. We could see that with Gallagher and Armstrong floating up top. But Gallagher, for me, he always plays him on the right wing. He never plays him on the left, or he very rarely does. He wants him on the right when he comes on. So for me, I'm expecting Gallagher to be on the right wing, which can only mean that Harvey Elliott will also be out of position today in that left wing area, a place which he's not really played much, and I don't really think he'll be as effective from. So that's the interesting bit with Sam Gallagher for me, is that when he starts, everybody else seems to have to shuffle around into a new position just to accommodate him, which is why I do think Dolan is a better fit than him. But it will be interesting to see. And of course, we don't know. We could sit here afterwards and we've won 3-0 and he got it bang on and Tribal got a hat-trick. So, it's not going to happen, but it might. So we won't be too negative. We won't be too down on it. And obviously we'll be back after the game to assess how it did go. We'll rack through a few of your comments just before we do finish and answer a few questions. We had a question a while ago from FM Works asking about Jack Vale. I'll just pick somebody out. Does anybody know much about Jack Vale who wants to talk about him quickly? Anybody? Well, I'll take on Jack Vale then. Jack Vale's an interesting player. He's actually out for another 2 months now with his injury. A little bit like Dan Butterworth, struggling with injuries in general. He's obviously made his first appearance, so it will be interesting to see. And he's the type of player where if we do lose Armstrong, he's probably going to end up getting bench time. We've had a few different comments in more recently, though. So, yeah, Ollie Pott says, got players on the bench that can change the game. If we start slow, we can look to them. 100%. I think John Buckley's definitely one against a Brentford where we're looking for passing lanes. Is there anybody on the bench for you, Jacob, that you'd be excited about coming on today?
I just couldn't believe Hope is on the bench. I didn't pick up on that. So to me, that indicates that we probably are going to change system today. Else, I just can't understand the logic in that at all, to be honest, because obviously, like I've already said, playing two defensive-minded midfielders in our current system just hasn't worked once this season. The track record for it says that if we do play the same system today, it's not going to work with that personnel in midfield. So hopefully he's got something up his sleeve and he's changing the formation, else I'm really going to be disappointed, I think.
Yeah, I think... Well, I mean, we saw with Rothwell, he made the bench and came on in the last game and kind of it came out afterwards that he had a tight hamstring. So it might be something like that with Holtby. Since he came back from Germany after the birth of his child, he's played a lot of football. And I guess that natural break might be good for him as we head into other games. We've got about 5 minutes left, so this is about the time where I'll ask everybody in the comments to start getting in their score predictions. I think we've had one or two already. Chris Hayes says he's going for 2-2, Armour and Johnson. And I'll go around the panel now and see what they think now that we've got our team news. So let us know what you think and we'll read some of them out at the end. Ryan, I'll start with you. What are you going for and why?
2-2 is what I've also gone for. I think it's just going to be a real blood and thunder game. Two really exciting sides that are going to go for each other. There'll be lots of counter-attacking. I think Rovers will have some joy today with Brentford having a bit more of the ball and that in that kind of possession territory that we like, that figure of possession. I think we can be quite dangerous today. I think Armstrong is going to bag. I think Tony's going to bag as well. I think it's just written in the stars. But no, expecting a really, really exciting game. So yeah, 2-2.
2-2. All right, Jacob, what are you going for and why?
I was going to go for 2-2 before I saw the team sheet, but unfortunately, it's really not filled me with confidence. I've already stated, but also we don't have Brereton today either, what I think is going to be a big miss. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to do an Alex today and go for 3-1 Brentford.
Oh, well, nothing wrong with it. Listen, we're not going to win every game. I've predicted losses before. And a few people getting more in. 1-2, fourth win in a row. Come on, Rovers. Interesting. And if we can keep them down to 1, I'll be happy. Michael Pearson also reckons 1 goal conceded with a 1-1 prediction. Also, Stephen Mason with a 1-1 prediction as well. Greg says 3-2 to Brentford, but a close game. And Standard Stare goes 1-2 if we're extremely lucky, more like 3-2 to Brentford. Tom, I'll come to you next. What are you going for and why?
I think we're 1-1. That was what I did in the prediction league. It's what I'll stick with. I made the mistake of last week changing to 2-1 on here, but not in the prediction league, and we won 2-1, so lost me points there. But so I go 1-1. I know you say they offer attacking threat, and they do. And perhaps I'm being optimistic by keeping them to 1 goal. But I just think it's going to let us down. I know, Ryan, you said you expect a really exciting game. It's always the exciting ones that tend to just be those cagey affairs where neither team is really too confident in pushing too far forward, because they know if they do, either side has got the quality to basically put you to the sword. So I go 1-1. Really close game, I think, though, and I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, FM Work says faith in Kaminsky. I think I agree with that. I think he could be the difference. We've had a lot of discussion on Twitter about the Kaminsky-Raya battle today, and we know full well. I mean, David Raya, I've gone for a Scott Wharton goal in my prediction, because I feel like a corner goal is likely. David Raya struggles from set pieces in the air, and we know he's got a mistake in him. And Kaminsky, I don't think, makes as many mistakes, so maybe that could be the difference today. So, yeah, Andy Watson says he doesn't think it's going to be an exciting game. He thinks both teams will have a lot of respect for each other, going for us to nick it 1-0. I think that would probably be the best feeling, wouldn't it? To nick this game 1-0. To keep a clean sheet would be a ridiculous statement to the rest of the league. It would put us up to 27 points, another +1 on the goal difference. And an away clean sheet win at Brentford is just really impressive. Chris Hayes, clean sheet ? Perhaps bringing us back down to earth there as to whether that's actually going to happen. The Standard Stare says Tom spot on, cagey game incoming. This could be the prequel to a playoff game later on in the season. Who knows whether either teams can push and maintain that playoff hopes. We will wait and see. I've gone for 3-3 today. High scoring, and ending up coming away with a draw, and I think I'd be happy with a draw as well. I think we're going to finish things there. Before we do finish, I'd like to thank everybody on the panel. Thank you, Tom, Ryan, and Jacob, for joining us.
Thanks, mate. Good hosting.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. And we will be back after the game as well to talk through things. If we've lost, come and join us, grab a beer. If we've won, come and join us and grab a beer. Before we do finish, we'd like to remind you that we are sponsored by 6yardsout.com. And until then, we'll see you guys later.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.